how many other moms out there would absolutely love to be in a position where they didn't have to worry about money, they could spend all day with their kids, be a part of, shaping their development and their growth and nurturing. Isn't that amazing? And I'm living in a foreign country.
Today's conversation explores what it really takes for real estate entrepreneurs to build and lead investor communities and to create meaningful events for investors, plus an introduction to an event that you don't want to miss. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Freedom Blueprint. I'm Adrienne Green, and today I have with me Ann Dela Cruz. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thank you, Adrienne, for having me.
Now, here we focus on how real estate entrepreneurs break free of the grind using leverage, support, and smarter strategies. So let's go ahead and jump in with Ann. For listeners who are just meeting you, can you give us a quick overview of your real estate investing background and where you stand with that today?
Yeah, absolutely, Adrienne. Ann Dela Cruz here. I'm a serial entrepreneur specializing in real estate investing. I started my journey in 2004, where I was literally just buying the houses that I wanted to move in and live in, got a roommate, which is now known as house hacking, and then converting those single family homes into rentals. And then in 2008, when the market crashed and everybody was running away, I was running in, and decided that was an opportunity to start scaling into building out a portfolio, and then got super lucky because I didn't know anything about market research at the time and how that factors into being an investor. But it just so happened to be Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so it just so happened that that market blew up, which then made me what's called an accredited investor, which opened up other opportunities for investments, such as commercial multifamily. And so when my family, thanks to the Army, stationed us overseas in Korea, I thought I was in a period where I had to kind of give it all up and just focus on family, but I found a way to overcome. So leveraging technology, finding community, which then gave me confidence that despite being overseas, I was able to get more into commercial using syndications as a limited partner. I was still able to do all the transactions of real estate investing, from buying 31 exchange, investing in bigger deals. All of those were made possible, despite the time and place that I was in, which then led me to now moving here on Guam, where I'm based. And so looking at now development, right? I think of all the levels of types of markets you could be into, development tends to be the highest risk. But here and now, going into the affordable housing crisis that's happening here, I feel that everything I did since I left this island was to gain some skill sets, build some friends, and giving me the confidence to get into this market. And so looking to bring and introduce 3D concrete printing technology to the island to help build homes.
Wow. So this is super exciting. You born and raised in Guam, left to, have your whole life adventure, learned so much about real estate investing over the last 22 years now, right? Tried and did all these different things. And now it's full circle, having been in the continental US, having been in Korea and Japan, you're now back in Guam and leveraging all the wisdom you've gained over the years to do development and real estate investing right there where you're originally from.
Yeah. What an incredible blessing and opportunity. Definitely at a stage in life where I can give back in a really profound and impactful way.
So much there. And what I know we're going to focus on today is your expertise and something you've done along the way with creating an investor network, which I think is so cool, and how you did it in, overseas, abroad from the United States. We're going to dive into that. And so for our listeners, there's a lot of lessons learned. If you're somebody who's interested in creating networks, community, events, anything like that, we're going to have some great wisdom for you today from Ann. Let's start at the beginning of this network journey. What originally motivated you to start an investor network in the Asia Pacific region? And what was the gap you were seeing that needed to be filled?
Great question. So actually it started with a personal pain. So I had just started my family, right? So I went from being very career oriented, growing my personal brand, my portfolio, all of those things. And then I was married to the military, and so that forced us overseas. So I didn't necessarily have a choice. But with that, moving overseas became self-limiting beliefs. And I just didn't recognize that at the time. But I told myself, you know what? Be a stay-at-home mom. Like I can do that. Well, I quickly realized that it was not my jam. And so, and I think I really struggled mentally with that because I thought, gosh, how many other moms out there would absolutely love to be in a position where they didn't have to worry about money, they could spend all day with their kids, be a part of, shaping their development and their growth and nurturing. Isn't that amazing? And I'm living in a foreign country. And yes, it was all those things, but honestly, it wasn't enough. And I think it took me about some time to not just be aware, but actually to be okay. It is
Right.
okay that I'm a stay-at-home mom, and it is okay that I don't like it, right? That I needed more. And I think once I recognized that, and basically once I gave myself permission that it was okay to want more, it kind of shifted, right? And so at the time we were living in Korea, and I told my wife, okay, I'm doing this whole stay-at-home mom gig, but once we move to Japan, we're gonna do everything we possibly could to get these kids back in school or some sort of daycare because I need to get back to work some way, somehow. I just needed more stimulation. And so fast forward, moved to Japan, and I was ready to go. I was ready to get back out there, start networking, meeting people, finding people who shared my passion, who were like-minded and whatnot. And then COVID hit. And so the things that I would normally do, right, to meet people, to connect with others, build relationships, just weren't there. Like those weren't the conditions that led to that. And so I thought, okay. But then I realized through Facebook, right, and other social media that, well, actually, I could continue to connect with people online, virtually. And so I just
Right.
started meeting people online through Facebook communities, people who already were like-minded, shared my interest. And what I came to realize is that some of those people were actually where I was located. And so I was like, oh my gosh, you're in Japan too? And so we just started connecting, right? We're like, you know what? We need to have a dinner or we need to have some sort of local meetup where we can just get together and just talk. And so the first meetup, it was in person. And I think like 9 people showed up and it was incredible. It was like there's just something that happens when you get a diverse group of people, to come together, just such engaging conversations. And so that like kind of revived, right, or reignited that passion for like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So that was in Japan. And then I went to Guam because I was visiting family and I noticed that no one in Guam that was doing that. And so I said, gosh, let me try this on Guam. And so I just threw together an event, didn't know who was going to show up, end up having 7 people show up, and it was the same thing. And it was almost as if all of us had all these ideas because of COVID, like people were having all these ideas and they were inspired, but I didn't have anyone to talk to. And so this meetup ended up being a play,
Mhm.
like a safe space where people were able to exchange their ideas and just really like feed off of each other. And I remember that meetup on Guam. We were there. I think the goal was like maybe an hour, 2 hours. We were there for like 4 hours. Like we closed down the coffee shop. And then I realized, gosh, I'm not here on Guam often enough. Like, how am I going to be able to balance between what's happening on Guam and what's happening in Japan? And so turned out when I got back to Japan, there was somebody else like me who they were trying to do local meetups, but his was virtual. And so I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Since you already have it set up, why don't I just bring my people? Why don't I co-host and we'll do it together?" And so we did that. We did it on Zoom, and gosh, that just ignited a whole nother level because I realized this is how we can do it because of Zoom and its unique features of creating breakout rooms to do networking. And so I spoke, and that person, Anthony Pinto, was who I co-hosted with. So we started talking and we're like, you know what? I'm sure there's other people in Japan who are also doing this. Let's find them, right? So we just started finding people in our community who just lived in Japan. And then I was like, wait, if this is virtual, why don't we just include Guam? They're only an hour ahead. And so of course Guam was like, yeah, let's do this. And then I was like, wait a minute, I just came from Korea. We're like in the exact same time zone. And so we invited folks from Korea, and then we just basically became Team Asia Pacific. And, what started off as just a group of strangers, but we were like-minded. We were shared each other's passion for real estate, and we shared each other's pain in that we were overseas. And there's just something that comes with living overseas that's already kind of limiting, but we were all trying to find a way to overcome. And in trying to find a way to
Right.
overcome, we found each other. And so that's really what led to the kind of the birth and the growth of our community was just that. quite frankly, the shared pain that we all felt.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. At the beginning, what problems were really coming up that you were able to help solve for investors who joined the network? Obviously, there was the community there, and I'm curious, what else were common themes?
The common theme was really that there was nothing available in our time zone. Like, if we wanted access to virtual events, live events, like we were looking for virtual live events where we can actually talk to someone with expertise who are willing to answer our burning questions. But if we wanted access to those, we had to be up at like 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And of course, all of us have other aspects of our lives. And sure, we would do it, every once in a while, but it was just not enough to meet our desire, right? And so that's what really kind of brought us together even more, because we were trying to create a way that we can take, people from dispersed parts of Japan and Korea, bring us all together. And now we have a bigger group. And as a bigger group, we're able to attract those types of speakers, people, to make it worthwhile their time to come on and share with us, their insights and their experiences. And so that honestly, the biggest pain was just trying to find ways to get access to that type of information and resources in our time zone.
And for listeners who aren't familiar with the Asia Pacific region, can you share what the time difference is in these countries versus let's say, the Eastern United States as a reference?
But it's actually pretty significant. So yeah, most people don't realize right now it's 6:22 p.m. on Guam, Chamorro Standard Time. Japan and Korea are just an hour behind. And if you were on the East Coast, it would be 3:22 in the morning. So, and not
Yeah.
only would it be 3:22 in the morning, there's also a difference in days, because when you head west, you cross that international date line. And so it turns out to be quite significant of a time difference.
Yes, I can tell you when we were in Japan for 2 months and I had to have live conversations with people anywhere from the Pacific to the Eastern time zone. We were up until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I needed all the Korean and Japanese skincare I could get because my under eye circles were crazy. So to make light of it, but it's tough. So I totally get that. And it was awesome how you're able to fill that gap and really create your own group that then you can bring in those speakers you wanted. Love that. Now, Anne, as I'm sure you know, so many investors and entrepreneurs, they think about starting a meetup or a network to get people together, maybe in their community, but they never follow through, right? It's a lot easier to have the idea than to take it all the way to fruition. What do you think holds people back from starting? And if somebody's listening like that, what would your wisdom be to them?
Yeah, I would tell to them it's totally all mindset. So I think a lot of people expect themselves to be the expert. Like, if I'm going to put together a community or even just a informal event talking about real estate investing, they expect themselves to be the actual real estate investor expert. And a lot of people believe that that's over here and they're only over here. But what's so funny is, as I talk to people and actually hear like, well, what have you done? Just share it with me. They actually have quite a bit of experience. And so I'm always surprised that I'm like, you actually have more experience than you give yourself credit for. So that's one thing. But I always tell them, I go, look, I love being the dumbest person in the room. My role in all of this in creating community is really just like an event planner. My goal is simply just to create a space so that people can come together. And there doesn't have to be an agenda. You don't have to bring a guest speaker. If you just set a date and time that works best for you, then you show up and people come and you just facilitate a conversation. That's really all it needs to be. And as I shared earlier, I think the quote that I really love, I forget who it gave the quote, but it's diversity of thought is the catalyst to genius. And it speaks to the fact that if you just bring a diverse group of people, right? And I think in the military world and just even living in Asia Pacific, it's so easy to find diversity in these places. And so if all you do is just create a way for people to gather, the types of conversations that come from that will almost always surprise you, And I can say that after 3 years of having built this community, there are many times when there's demands on my schedule that I'm like, gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Do I spend time volunteering doing this, bringing people together, or do I do this? And so there's always that struggle. But what always brings me back home and recommitting to this community is every time I do show up and put these things together, it's magical. I see
Hmm.
people create types of conversations that lead to partnerships, that lead to deals and opportunities that I never would have imagined. But the thing that always really, just really gets me heartfelt is when I see their confidence grow. And for me, that's huge, right? Because yes, you can learn some things. Yes, you can, do a deal here and there, but that confidence, like having confidence to be able to take action is one of the things that I feel people take away from this community. And it's just so exciting to witness.
If you're a real estate entrepreneur trying to scale while doing everything yourself, there's a better way. The Time and Freedom Starter Pack gives you the exact first steps to reclaim hours each week with real support, including what to hand off, where to start, and simple tools you can put into place right away. Download it for free at adriennegreen.com/starter pack. Now let's get back to the episode. Right. I mean, I love that. I think of how so many people would say or think potentially these days that we've got so much on Google and YouTube, and now with ChatGPT, you can find so much information or data, right, on the internet. And yet, that's not the same as the magic that's created when you actually get people together, even virtually. And there's information, there's tribal knowledge that is not out there on the internet. And I think what happens and gives people that confidence so much is they see other people who've done it and succeeded, right? Versus if you're just on Google, if you're just on these web-based sources that aren't people focused, you're seeing a lot of data, you're seeing a lot of worst case situations, and you're not making that relationship or hearing that story of the person who's gone through it and survived so that you can
Yeah.
calm all those fears in your brain that are keeping you from taking action.
Yeah. Yes. Hands down. Hashtag truth.
Well, I'd like to also talk about communities versus events because now you've made that evolution. And so, as we start to talk about your event experience and what you're doing for investors in that space, how do you define or think of the difference between hosting an event like a summit and building a real estate investor community like what we've been speaking about?
That's a great distinction, Adrian, and I'm so glad that you presented that way. And I would say most people, when they think of events, they're very transactional, right? Like get a venue, figure out the menu, figure out the program. Like it's very task oriented, and so it's easy for people to fall into the habit of just being transactional, right? Check that block. There's that checklist. Check that block. And I think what most people forget, because they're so in the transaction process part, is that the whole reason why you're creating all of this is to create space for people to gather, right? And for some reason, I think that does get lost. And so I think when people try to create an event, they lose sight of the why when they put them together. And when that happens, people don't do the things that should be done in order to create the space for people to engage, right? Really unfortunate because there's so much energy and resources that go into hosting any event. It doesn't matter if it's small or large, doesn't matter if it's in person or virtual, it takes resources, right? And when you go through all of that effort and you put that together, but you forget why you're doing it, you forget that the goal is to bring people together so that they can engage and have experiences so that once they walk away, they actually have not just, inspiration to take some action, but support. And so I think one of the things that we do differently is we're very clear on our why, and we're very intentional in designing our events so that people have different conditions to engage, right? The type of conversation you have in a small group versus the type of conversation you have having coffee together or a meal together. I think, again, we're just very intentional at creating those types of conditions so that when people come, we say, yes, you're here because you're interested in a topic or you're interested in meeting a specific person, but at some point this event's going to end and you're going to walk away, and it'll be very difficult to take next steps or to execute when you're ready if you don't have that support system. So we always foot stomp on, hey, you're here, exchange contact information. In fact, one of the things that we do is when we are on our Zoom events, we have people rename themselves. So it's not just their name, but we actually put where they're located so that when we're networking, we can clearly and easily see where everyone's from. And so if someone happens to be in the same area, and we never met them, you could message them directly and be like, hey, and so I think for us, because we're so clear about our why and intentional in creating those types of conditions in our events, that's what makes us different.
Right. Yes. I love that because we've all been to events where it's just like back to back speakers, no chance to network. And because of your community background, I think too, building that community, you brought that in where a lot of event planners do not. So let's talk about this event that you have coming up. Can you share with the listeners a little bit about this?
Yeah, oh, I'm so excited to share this. So we have the 2026 Asia Pacific Real Estate Investing Summit, which is essentially the evolution of our community. You heard me share that a lot of us have been engaging virtually over the course of months and many of us years, and we never met in person. And so when I moved back home to Guam, I was like, we have to find a way to meet in person because I would tell everybody, yes, you can meet people virtually through any channel or any platform, but nothing beats in-person engagement. And so I was committed to finding a way for us to come gather on this island. And so what that led to is this summit. And so it's a 2-day event. Day one is focused on general real estate investing topics. The way that we designed the program is to basically give you a mix of keynotes, which are topics that are more personal development, right? So things about mindset, things about inspiration. Then we also give you masterclass topics because everyone is usually at a different stage in their journey. And when you look at the category of real estate investing, it's actually incredibly broad, right? Are you talking residential? Are you talking
Yeah.
commercial? If you're talking commercial, are you talking office? Are you talking apartments?
Right.
There's so many ways you can go. Is there a framework and different pathways? Yes, but what works for one person may not work for the other. And so I thought it was really important for us to basically try to create a menu of options for our attendees. And so we have different, what we call them master classes, where each topic is specific to that market or that pathway. And so our attendees will be able to just really pick and choose. And so there'll be 3 rounds of master classes. Each round will have 3 courses that they could select from. And so the goal is at the end of the day, they will be able to choose what it is that they want to learn. But because there's so many options, they should be able to walk away with a good amount of just not just information, but they'll meet different people based on that interest.
Right.
And so
Well, I was just going to say because I'm so excited about this summit because you have designed kind of like my dream event because of how you did like the content piece that you just shared, right? The content
yeah.
piece of like you said the keynotes and then these master classes. I love that because you can really like make it your own, make it tailored to you. And then you put it on Guam on this beautiful beach with this beautiful like protected bay if I'm understanding with like snorkeling and stuff, right? Which okay,
The reef,
amazing.
yes.
And then you also have a very family-friendly component to it, which, I know you specifically put it over what is most people's spring break so that they can come and enjoy this beautiful location, have this amazing beach vacation with their family, and get this amazing real estate investing conference on top of it. So, can you say for listeners who maybe are hearing about this for the first time, thinking about where they might go with their family for spring break, how this conference could fit into those plans?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, the first thing is that the dates that we have this conference scheduled for is April 1st and 2nd, which is a Wednesday and Thursday, and it just happens to overlay over spring break. And it's Dodea spring break for US citizens who are stationed overseas. It's a perfect alignment because most of the people who do real estate investing are usually adventurers and they're going to travel anyway, right? So I'm just giving them a destination. And then who wouldn't want a beach vacation? And one of the things that's incredible about Guam is actually the water. It's not just, tropical, warm, or blue, like crystal blue water that you just look at and it just looks refreshing. It actually is refreshing. When you go in the water, it's warm. If you go to places like Japan and Korea, that water is actually quite frigid. And so it's great. And then for the family friendly component is I think one of the things that we really want to highlight because in this world of real estate investing, a lot of people talk about their why on getting started. It's for their family. And yet, many of the opportunities and conferences out there don't really create space for the kids to be included. And I think that's just really unfortunate. And I think Guam is just a natural location to make that possible. A lot of the things, I mean, yes, the beach vacation, but there's actually a lot of things culturally that are unique to Guam that make, if you're a family that not only travels, not only enjoys adventure, but you really want to have an enriching culture experience as well. I think Guam just has all of that, in spades. And so, yes, people can come here for the education, they will get the networking, but they can also do things with their family, which I think is incredibly important because if that's your why, why wouldn't you want to bring them? Why wouldn't you want to include them? And then they're not going to be like, oh, I'm bored, or because they will have activities to make it so that they can experience. And not, I'm not talking about activities like just put them in a room and with some devices. I mean, we actually are going to have a kids club program, and in this program, we have some local partnerships and businesses so that they can do cultural type activities. And so we are incredibly excited about bringing that as part of our program and making it so that families who do real estate investing for their families are actually able to include them in this entire experience.
I am super excited. For our listeners, you know that we travel all the time. I'm really into like doing really cool things with my kids, right? Like my kids have these amazing experiences, and Guam is going to be, and going to this summit is going to be something new for even like my kids. It's going to be a new growth experience. We joked that my youngest is going to be president of the United States someday. And so half joke also that he's going to lead the world. But anyway,
I
we're
love
like,
it.
how
I love
cool,
doing
like you, like more experience on Guam, like how many people who go and how many presidents do we have who know Guam well, who've spent time there. And so we were joking about that because I do think that's a cool thing to have as an American to have some experience with that. And
Yeah.
I'm super excited to speak about remote landlording at this summit as well. So, and share as somebody who does travel the world and manages properties in the US how I do it. Now, how do people, if we've talked about it, hopefully we've like shared our enthusiasm for it and they see how amazing it would be. And where should
Yeah.
people go to learn more, either to connect with you or learn more about the summit so they can come hang out with us in Guam?
They could find us. We do have a website. It's apresummit.com. So APRE is the Asia Pacific Real Estate Investing, and then summit.com. That's where they can go to check out the details of the event as well as register. So if they're interested in getting tickets and all the different levels that they have access to. And then, of course, if they want to stay connected with us, the Asia Pacific Investor Network, I want to say we're on all the channels. So call it Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're on there. If anyone wants to connect with me directly, I'm all about that. Definitely a great way to stay in touch with me is through LinkedIn. And they could go to the website and they'll see. But the other part of the program is the excursions. So we do offer excursions. They're kind of like add-ons for our attendees who want to get more out of just a 2-day program. Which, don't get me wrong, it's an incredible program. But of course, if you're going to come here, you may as well make an entire vacation of it, right, for your spring break escape. And so we do have pre-summit activities as well as a post-summit activity. And so all of that is on the website when they check it out.
Amazing. So check out the website if you'd like to come to the summit. If you are in the Asia Pacific region and you want to join the network, go check out that. And if you think Ann is amazing as I do, connect with her on LinkedIn and start a conversation there. And hey, connect with me too. We could talk there too. So thank you so much, Ann, for joining me. I did love that because we're both in the Asian time zones right now, I didn't have to record this in the middle of the night. That's a
Oh,
win.
no, huge win. Huge win. Believe me, I know your pain.
Yes. So, and for those of you who are listening, whether you are in the Asia Pacific region or you are in the continental United States or somewhere else in the world, I would love for you to take a look at this summit and think about joining us on April 1st and 2nd in Guam. Well, thanks again, Ann. This has been an amazing conversation. And if you loved today's episode, listeners, take a moment to subscribe wherever you're listening. And if you could leave me a little review, it would be a huge, huge help. And then join me again next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.